You're rich!
If he could just find himself again, be the man that I knew him to be, the man that I know he can be.
No! Oops.
What the hell, Kev?
It's a fake.
So how much do you need?
Not a whole lot. Only around $8 billion.
8 billion?
How much?
About $5,000 a bottle.
Where is all this money coming from?
The person who'd abducted Kevin stepped back from him and waited for further instructions. You've done a good job. You can leave now. I'd like to be left alone with our messenger to discuss some business. The director was stretched out on the bed in her private quarters. Yes, Madam Director. Her assistant turned around and left the room. Kevin and the director were alone for the first time since they'd last seen each other, and the atmosphere got a bit awkward. Looking into her beautiful eyes, Kevin remembered how days before he had been drugged and accidentally slept with her. He couldn't let anything like that happen again. His relationship with Lily meant too much to him. Do you think you can untie my ropes now? It was a little cramped in that car and I needed to stretch. Kevin broke the uncomfortable silence with a smile. To tell you the truth, Kevin, I'm not sure that would be a good idea. The Alliance director slowly stood up and walked toward him. She was wearing a flattering light blue dress and Kevin could smell her delicate perfume. He thought about what had happened last time and gulped nervously as he worried that she might have feelings for him. Madam Director, if you have something to tell me, just go ahead and say it. But I don't think I need to be tied up like this. Have I done something wrong? Kevin tried his best to smile and lighten the atmosphere. Well, have you done anything wrong? Only you would know that. She pulled out a sharp knife and quickly sliced off the ropes around Kevin's wrists and ankles. What I'd like to know is how things are going with your mission. It's been a long time and I haven't had a report from you. Her tone was firm and a little cold. Oh, there's no problem at all, ma'am. It's just that I haven't turned up anything yet, Kevin coolly replied. For one thing, there are a lot of experts to deal with on the campus. I've turned the whole library upside down, but I couldn't find anything at all about the consolidation technique. I told you that the secret recipe and method are in the hands of the Southwest School of Healing. What are you doing in the library of the Chicago School? She was obviously irritated that Kevin had wasted so much time. It's part of my plan, Madam Director. From what I've seen, the real experts in the school spend a whole lot of time lurking in the library. Taking a step back from the director, Kevin continued. So even though the head of the Southwest School has the secret technique, they're at the School for the Healing Arts right now in Chicago. I've been going there for a while, but I haven't met all the professors, let alone the dean. The library's the only place where I have a chance to get my hands on the consolidation technique. Kevin shrugged helplessly as he explained his strategy to the director. You always seem to outsmart me, don't you? I like that in a man. The beautiful Madam Director smirked as she seductively stepped towards Kevin. She looked deeply into Kevin's eyes. After thinking carefully about it, she felt that what he had just said made sense, so she dropped the subject. But I'm still wondering why you didn't make the effort to get to the Alliance leader's birthday on time. The director sounded very serious as she scolded Kevin for his oversight. Do you know what consequences you'll face if you don't show up as the Alliance's messenger? Oh, so you sent someone to get me because you were afraid that I'd get in trouble? Kevin smiled mischievously at the director. If he was picking up correctly on her signals, the director had a crush on him and he knew that the only way to get out of the situation was to make her think that she had the power. Don't be ridiculous, Kevin. I promoted you to the position of messenger. You really should take things more seriously. The director scolded him again, but it was hard for her to hide her true feelings as she batted her lashes at him. Then a strange look flashed across her eyes as she thought about the night she and Kevin had spent together. In fact, she hadn't been able to stop thinking about him ever since. Please calm down. I didn't come back to make a report because I just couldn't bear to face you. Kevin quickly explained why he'd been so aloof. I've been doing my best to carry out the mission you gave me so I can repay you for all that you've done for me. But it's been impossible to track down the consolidation technique, and I've had a lot of serious fights and injuries. Kevin paused his explanation for a moment as he tried to think of what to say next. But when the director heard that Kevin had been injured, her eyes softened, and she reached out to stroke his shoulder. "Where were you hurt? Have you recovered yet? We have a lot of remedies for internal injuries. I would never forgive myself if anything happened to you." Thinking of his commitment to Lily, Kevin quickly took a step back from the director's longing touch. "Don't worry. It was only a superficial injury. I recovered from it a long time ago. Now I really should go and wish your husband a happy birthday." "Kevin, I'm the Alliance leader's wife, so that means that you have to do whatever I tell you to do. And if you disobey me, I could have you killed." Seeing her hands reach towards him, Kevin quickly sidestepped her and shook his head. "Madam Director, are you sure that this is something your husband would approve of?" "My husband hasn't thought about me in years, Kevin. Please tell me that you feel the same way." Kevin took a deep breath and thought to himself, "I have to be very careful. If I upset her, there is a chance that she'll tell her husband about what happened between me and her. He won't care if I was drugged and will blame me anyways." Before Kevin could respond, the Madam Director placed her manicure and leaned forward and whispered into his ears, "I want you." Kevin shook his head and took a step back. "Please, Madam Director, we can't do this. It's wrong." "Shh, don't overthink this. I can't do anything with her. My heart belongs to Lily, but if I reject her, she could try and have me killed. How am I supposed to get out of this situation without offending her?" Just then, Kevin heard a voice from outside the door. "Is Madam resting?" The Alliance Director suddenly came to her senses. She quickly zipped up her dress and straightened out her clothes. "Hide! The leader is here!" She sat down and took a deep breath to try to calm herself and look like everything was normal. "What is it?" Kevin froze, unsure what to do. It was like a bucket of water had been thrown on the fire in his heart. The Alliance leader was a powerful man. Even though Kevin was innocent, there was no telling what he would do to Kevin if he found him alone in a room with his wife. "What should I do?" Kevin looked around the room anxiously. "Quick, out the window. My room looks out on the hill, so be careful where you land." The director whispered in Kevin's ear. "Good idea." Kevin climbed out the window without thinking twice about it. Thanks to the director's warning, he grabbed the window sill and hung on tightly as his legs dangled outside the building. If he'd jumped straight out, he would certainly have broken his neck. "Be absolutely quiet. Don't even breathe. Otherwise, the Alliance leader will know you're there. And I can't have you die. Not when I have so many plans for you." Then she closed the window. The Alliance leader knocked on the door again. "Madam, are you resting?" "I'm not resting yet. Please come in." Then she quickly went back to lie in the bed. When he heard this, the Alliance leader opened the door and walked in. Even though he was a bit older, he was still a very imposing-looking man. But time was catching up with him, and he wasn't the man he used to be. "Don't you have any business to discuss with your aides?" She was starting to get worried about Kevin and couldn't help glancing at the window. "I finished talking with them. Just thought I'd drop by to see my wife." He went to the bed and sat down. "Your face looks a little flushed. Are you all right?" "I think it's a little stuffy in here." She came up with an excuse to explain why she was blushing. "Then I'll open the window for you." He started to get up from the bed. "Don't worry about it. It's a little windy tonight. I'll be okay." The director was panicking. "Whatever you say." Then he pulled a small book out of his jacket and tossed it on the bed. "What's this?" she asked suspiciously. "It's a rare book I found by accident when I was in the archives. I thought you might want to take a look." He sounded a little bored. The archives contained all the secret books the Alliance had collected. Nobody was allowed to enter it except their leader. "Thank you." She smiled and put the book on her pillow. "I hope you like it." He sat next to her and ran his fingers through her hair. The director didn't answer. She knew that her husband read a lot to pass the time. After she'd followed him to the headquarters, she hadn't been off the grounds in years. The director had a respected position in the Alliance, but she needed something more. And right now, all she could think about was her relationship with Kevin. She started to blush again as she thought about him. Her husband didn't notice how distracted she was and changed the subject.
"I have some other news for you. The Herbalist Society and the Myriad sent me birthday presents."
"Really? Haven't they always been against us?" She was surprised to hear this.
"In a way, yes. But all of us are considered to be outsiders in the herbal underground. Recently, though, the herbal schools have attracted a lot of students and they're getting stronger."
As he said this, he furrowed his brows. "The 10 major schools have always considered themselves superior to us. What galls me is that just a few years ago they were nothing to us." The director looked disgusted by the situation. Her husband seemed really concerned by this.
"The Herbalist Society has gotten a lot of support from some rich industrialists and people who are well placed in the government. They've attracted a lot of skilled herbalists and there's no telling where they could go. But the rest of us, the Alliance and the Myriads, have become the targets of public criticism. While we've been killing each other, we should really have been helping each other."
He looked at his wife and asked her,
"Guess what they gave me?"
"Was it gold or silver?" The director wasn't really interested in playing a guessing game. Right now, all she could think of was Kevin.
"Wrong. They gave me the technique for consolidation,"
he said happily. "What? Why would they do that?" She was surprised beyond belief. As Kevin hung out the windowsill in the cold wind, he overheard their conversation. Could it be true that the Alliance now had the secret that she'd sent him to steal?
"From what I understand, consolidation allows you to gather all your power, so much that you can affect everyone around you." Then he laughed and said, "I'll leave it all with you for the time being."
"What are you going to do now?" She didn't understand why he decided to leave this secret with her.
"I already know a lot of the Alliance's techniques. From what I've seen, the Herbalist Society and the Myriads are almost the same. I'd like your help in figuring out what the difference is. It'll give you something to do."
After he said this, the Alliance leader got up and left the room. After he was gone, the director took a deep breath and steadied herself. Then she locked the door and ran to open the window so Kevin could come in. He was shivering. "Go downstairs and get some soup or something to warm up." She wanted Kevin to get out of her room. If her husband came back, they'd both be in big trouble. When he saw how frightened she looked, Kevin began to smile. "Okay, I'll get going. You get some rest." She angrily stamped her foot on the ground. How could Kevin be so bold? But she couldn't bring herself to stay angry. After the leader's birthday party, the guests weren't in a hurry to leave. The Alliance leader was still sitting in the place of honor. His wife was near him on the sofa, and Kevin was on the other side because of his position as messenger. Kevin looked around the room, but he didn't see the Night King. He wondered where his mentor was.
"So, why did the messenger arrive late to my party?"
The Alliance leader sounded a little irritated. As soon as he said that, everyone turned and looked at Kevin. There were a lot of dignitaries there who made enormous contributions to the Alliance. Kevin was a relative newcomer, and he'd already moved ahead of them in the hierarchy. But nobody complained because they knew that the director favored him. Before Kevin could reply, the Alliance leader turned to his wife and said,
"I think Kevin is just what we need right now. He's still young, but he has a lot of potential. And he did rescue our administrator candidates from Brett Stewart of the Myriads.
Besides, he's already a skilled herbalist and the Night King is mentoring him. I think he'll lead the Alliance to great things." The director smiled and looked at Kevin.
"Oh, is he studying with the Night King?"
The Alliance leader seemed shocked.
It seems that our new messenger is full of surprises.
He didn't know it, but Kevin had an even bigger surprise in store for him. I can't let the Alliance leader know that his wife just hit on me, Kevin whispered to himself as he climbed down from the window ledge and landed on the ground. Taking a deep breath, he quickly slid through an open window on the ground level and entered the ballroom, skillfully blending into the crowd. Just then, a security guard with a gun in his hand approached Kevin and grabbed him by the arm.
I need you to come with me. The Alliance leader has been looking for you.
Preparing for a fight, Kevin began to clench his fist. Only before Kevin could respond, the security guard continued.
Since you are the Alliance messenger, our leader has requested for you to be seated in a place of honor near the leader and his wife, Madam Director.
As Kevin sat down next to the Alliance leader, it became obvious that the other senior members were jealous of him. They were very worried because instead of stripping Kevin of his title for being late to his party, their leader seemed to be impressed with him. In fact, he was praising Kevin for his accomplishments. It looked like Kevin's position was even more stable than before. With a big smile on his face, the Alliance leader leaned forward.
Kevin, I'm so happy that you were able to make it to my party. We missed you at our headquarters yesterday.
Sir, the reason why I didn't return to the headquarters yesterday is that I made a pill for you. Kevin stood up and held out his hand. Everyone could see a dark blue pill and wondered what it was.
What kind of herbal medicine is this?
The Alliance leader asked with a slight frown. He knew how to make herbal meds, but he had just studied it a bit when he was younger. This is called the Unity Pill. Kevin's eye swept around the room and then he explained. This can actually replace every cell in your body. You could hear everyone in the room gasp one after another. If what Kevin had just said was true, whoever took the pill would be given a new life. Kevin had actually made the pill for himself. But after what had just happened with the Alliance leader's wife hitting on him, Kevin knew that he had to find a way to make the Alliance leader trust him. That way he could protect his future by making a relationship with the Alliance leader outside of the Madam Director's influence.
Fantastic!
The Alliance leader clapped his hands happily.
If our messenger can do something like this at such a young age, the Alliance's future is in good hands. We really need more people like him.
Kevin smiled casually and dropped the pill in the leader's hand. He didn't know whether he could ever find the same rare herbs again in the future. The medicinal ingredients were extremely difficult to find. If he hadn't found them in Penny's basement the night before, Kevin wouldn't have been able to do it. But as soon as he placed the pill in the Alliance leader's hand, Kevin knew that he had made the right decision. Looking around, he could see that the other members were starting to change their minds about Kevin. They were impressed that he was putting their leader's interests ahead of his own. The Alliance leader gratefully offered Kevin a glass of wine and poured it himself. The party picked up again, and the atmosphere got a lot more festive. The Alliance leader walked over to his wife and asked her,
"Did you find out anything more about consolidation?"
To tell you the truth, I spent a lot of time on it last night and didn't find anything useful. The beautiful director was blushing a little from the wine and tossed the little book onto the table.
So I guess we're out of luck.
The Alliance leader slowly closed his eyes and sighed. One of the senior members stood up and announced loudly,
"Don't worry about it, sir. Do we really need to find out this secret method?"
"What he said is very true. You really shouldn't worry about it too much. You're still our leader." One of the Alliance administrators tried to reassure him. Then everyone stood up and shouted, "Long live our great leader!" But Kevin wasn't convinced that the situation was as dire as the leader had said. "Sir, I wonder if you could let me take a look at the book." The room fell silent and everyone looked at Kevin like he was some kind of fool. Nobody in the entire Alliance was allowed to read the book except for the leader and his wife, the director. The Alliance leader stared menacingly at Kevin. He could feel the leader's disapproval as his eyes burned through him.
"Just because you gave me an herbal med doesn't mean that you can breach etiquette,"
the leader snapped at him. "This is unheard of. one of the senior members exclaimed loudly.
"Even the Alliance messenger can't be so rude,"
said another. They were all upset that Kevin had tried to break one of their strictest rules. Just then, the stunning Madam Director quickly stood up and came to Kevin's defense. "Please calm down. Kevin has only been with us for a short time. You have to forgive him. How could we explain it to the Night King if we punished him for this?" The Alliance leader was unsure how to respond. He wasn't willing to listen to his wife's plea, but at the same time he had to respect the Night King. And it would be tough to maintain order if he allowed someone to break the Alliance's rules of conduct. "Please listen to what I have to say," Kevin firmly called out.
"What else do you have to say?"
Although the Alliance leader's tone of voice was very cold, he hoped that Kevin would give him a way out so the members wouldn't think he was getting weak. Kevin leaned forward. "There's something that you may not know. While your experts may be very good at appraising antiques, I think there's something wrong with the book on consolidation that you were given."
"The book was a gift from the Herbalist Society. What's wrong with it?"
The leader was furious at the suggestion. "Sir, could you just please let me see it up close before I say anything more?" Kevin was very persistent. He knew that the Alliance leader would be finished if he couldn't help him.
"I'll give you just one chance."
The leader nodded and gestured for Kevin to go to the table. Kevin took a deep breath and picked up the book on the consolidation technique. "Don't believe him," one of the senior members warned. Before anyone else could object, the Alliance leader gestured for them all to be quiet.
"If you're right, I'll reward you generously. If not, even the Night King won't be able to save you," the leader declared ominously.
"First of all, while this looks like a genuine antique, the paper is too new. How can you explain that there isn't a single sign of aging or use?" Kevin spoke in a loud voice so that everyone in the room could hear him. Then he began to tear the binding off of the book. They were all shocked to see him do this. How could he have such nerve?
"Kevin, do you realize I could for that?"
The Alliance leader was absolutely furious. Nobody in the room dared to even breathe when they saw how angry he was. "Why don't you take a look at this first?" Kevin pulled out a tiny black object from the binding of the book.
"It's nothing, just a little piece of leather,"
the leader responded coldly. "Actually, it's a state-of-the-art spy camera, no larger than a computer chip." Kevin held out the little black square in the palm of his hand. The Alliance leader took a moment to focus, and then he could clearly see the camera, along with a tiny hole in the book's cover. If Kevin had really found a spy camera, that meant that the Herbalist Society had intended to watch all of the Alliance's activities and hear all of their secret plans. Just thinking about it, the Alliance leader started to break into a cold sweat.
"Do you have any proof of this accusation?"
the Alliance leader asked dubiously. "It's very simple, sir. Just get one of your assistants to take it to your lab and verify it," Kevin said without any sign of fear. "If I'm wrong and this isn't a camera, I'll gladly accept your punishment."
"It's outrageous."
The Alliance leader believed Kevin's explanation and slammed his fist on the table, smashing it to pieces.
"What a vicious thing for them to do. Imagine being spied on in our own headquarters."
The Alliance leader was beside himself.
"I swear to you that I'll see to it that we destroy the Herbalist Society."
All the members nodded in agreement, including the most senior leaders, and they promised to work day and night to get even with them. After a while, the Alliance leader had regained his composure and turned to speak to Kevin.
"I'm sorry that I didn't trust you."
"As a member of the Alliance, it's my duty to help you in any way I can," Kevin answered quickly.
"Don't be so modest. You've done a great service for us today, and I'll make sure that you're rewarded."
The Alliance leader thought for a moment and continued.
"From now on, you'll have free run of the headquarters property, and I'll allow you to attend any discussions we have."
"Thank you, sir," Kevin replied with a smile. The senior members who'd opposed Kevin's promotion were at a loss for words. They'd been hoping to take advantage of this opportunity to get Kevin removed from his position as messenger. Instead, they'd ended up looking like fools, and he had even more power than before. None of them had ever seen their leader act so generously toward someone.
Party on!
The Alliance leader declared cheerfully. He'd already put the entire scene behind him and wanted everyone to have a little fun. Everyone started drinking toast to Kevin to thank him for what he'd just done for the Alliance. The party started at 11 in the morning and didn't end until after 5 o'clock in the afternoon. By the time they were finished, only a handful of them were able to stand up straight from all the toast they'd been drinking. Of course, Kevin was one of them. The herbal meds he'd taken had somewhat changed him, so his body recovered more quickly than everyone else. Whether it was alcohol or poison, he didn't feel the effects for long. As things started to wind down, the Alliance leader asked Kevin to follow him into one of the side rooms.
Do you know why I've brought you in here, Kevin?
The Alliance leader leaned back in his chair and rubbed his forehead. To tell you the truth, I have no idea. Kevin looked calm on the outside, but he was in fact extremely nervous. Is he aware that I've been learning the Alliance's secret techniques? Kevin thought to himself.
I can't believe it, but after all these years, the Herbalist Society's leader is still nothing but a common thug.
The Alliance leader was thinking out loud.
Kevin, it seems that you're the first person of the younger generation to join our alliance. It will be your responsibility to carry us into the future.
I know that you've been around for a long time, and I have a lot of respect for all your experience. Kevin made sure to speak very carefully to the leader so that he could stay on good terms with him.
Relax and just listen to what I have to say. This is a very serious matter. I know I'm not going to live forever, but I would like to do something to help protect you.
He got up and opened a cabinet to pull out what looked like a piece of clothing made of very thin material.
Kevin, this is an ultra-advanced type of body armor that we're developing. As long as you have it on, you'll be invulnerable to any weapons, even heat,
the Alliance leader explained as he put the material down on the table in front of them.
Think of it as a token of my gratitude for exposing the Herbalist Society's treachery.
He took a breath and then spoke to Kevin very earnestly.
I hope you'll be able to live up to our expectations. I'm counting on you, as are my wife and the Night King. Practice hard and continue to devote yourself to the Alliance.
I'll do everything I can to help you in the Alliance, no matter what it costs me. Kevin thanked him enthusiastically. He couldn't believe how well this had worked out for him. Even though the Unity pill he'd given the leader had been very valuable, this armor was worth even more. It was definitely a win-win. The Alliance leader nodded at Kevin and walked out of the room. When he got back to his bedroom at the headquarters, Kevin immediately put on the armor. It was very comfortable, and Kevin thought it made him look a little like a superhero. Then he put his pants and shirt on over it, and you couldn't even tell he had it on. This is some real high-tech stuff. Kevin excitedly took out a dagger and tried to cut his left arm. It didn't make a single mark in the material and never touched his skin. Wow, that's gonna come in handy, Kevin exclaimed happily. Suddenly, he heard someone knocking urgently at the door. Kevin warily walked over to see who it was. He was surprised to see the Madam Director standing there with a seductive look in her eyes. Ma'am, have you had too much to drink? The Alliance leader is your husband. This is wrong. Kevin gulped when he saw the state that she was in. Kevin, she immediately hugged him, buried her head in his chest, and cried, I really like you. Shh, be quiet. If anybody saw us together like this, I'd be a dead man, Kevin whispered as he quickly pulled her into his room and shut the door. The director wrapped her arms around Kevin gently took her arms off of him and helped her sit down. I think you've had a little too much to drink. I'll go make something to help you sober up. No, I don't want any meds. She paused and stood up and walked over to Kevin's bed and lay down. I don't want to be the leader's wife anymore. I just want you, Kevin. No man has ever made me feel the way that you do. I can't stop thinking about the night that we spent together. Taking a step back, Kevin thought to himself, what am I going to do? She doesn't seem to understand that I was drugged that night. My heart belongs to my wife, Lily. I need to get the Madam Director out of here before she gets me killed. Before Kevin could respond, he turned to see that the Madam Director had fallen asleep on his bed. He tried to wake her up, but she wouldn't budge. Hopefully she'll be in her right mind tomorrow morning, Kevin told himself as he got a pillow and lay down on his couch. Later that night, when Kevin was still half asleep, his cell phone suddenly vibrated. Who could be calling me this early in the morning? Kevin reached out and groped for his phone. Hello, who's this? Kevin wasn't angry, just a little irritated.
Kevin, this is your Uncle Thomas.
He couldn't believe that his uncle was calling him after everything that had happened between them. As Kevin struggled to wake up, a million thoughts raced through his head. Why on earth would his estranged uncle be calling him now? Deep down, Kevin knew that this call would change everything. Why would my estranged uncle be calling me now, especially in the middle of the night? Kevin asked himself as he stared at his phone. Kevin still remembered the bloody scene at the Williams family's mansion in New York when his parents, Mitchell Cook, and his other friends had been abducted and abused. Kevin thought long and hard before responding. Finally, he sighed and asked, "What's the matter?" Even though his family had done terrible things to him, he couldn't bring himself to be unkind. That's what made him a better man.
You need to come back home and see your grandfather for the last time.
Thomas sighed in despair. When he heard this, Kevin's eyes grew wide. Although Grandpa Williams was very old, he was still in very good shape and he had been training his whole life. He should be able to live for at least another 30 years. Is he ill? Kevin's breathing became a little short. His grandfather loved him very much when he was a child. Their relationship had been strained in recent years, but his grandfather still meant something. As the Madam Director stood up and went to the door, she turned around and paused. By the way, my name is Selina Salem. Because of the Alliance customs, I've never been able to tell you my name. But there's something special about you, and I want you to know it. I'm tired of feeling captive to the influence and power of the Alliance. Meeting you reminded me of the importance of justice and true love. Who knows? Maybe one day you could take me away from here? Before Kevin could respond, Selina gave a soft sigh. I have to hurry back to my room. If anyone found out that I slept here, we'd both be in a lot of trouble. Kevin didn't speak, he just nodded his head. After Selina left, Kevin could still smell her perfume on the pillow. He made up his mind to develop his strength so that he could take her and anyone else who wanted freedom away from the Alliance as soon as possible. But right now, neither of them was powerful enough to take that kind of step, not against such a formidable organization. After a few hours, Kevin arrived in New York City. The hospital was full of Williams family members. There were also a lot of influential politicians and members of the business world who were there to visit with Randall Williams, Kevin's grandfather. But everyone was still puzzled about how he'd suddenly fallen ill. As Kevin had found out through his exposure to herbal medicines, someone with his grandfather's level of development should be able to fight off many fatal diseases. It seems that he had probably been poisoned, not in a single dose, but over a long period of time. Over the course of the previous month, Randall had felt more and more tired as the level of poison had increased in his body. Looked like nobody could save him now. At first, Thomas had decided to keep the news of Randall's illness a secret. He was just too important a figure in New York, and if people knew that he'd been poisoned, it would have hurt the Williams family. Grandpa Williams lay in his hospital bed, very lethargic and looking gaunt. His skin was an odd bluish-purple color. All the senior members of the Williams family were at his bedside looking extremely somber. They would be lost without Randall.
Thomas, Did you call Kevin? Randall asked weakly. Don't worry, Father. I've told him, Thomas replied hesitantly. But he didn't tell the poor sick man that although Kevin hadn't refused, he hadn't agreed either. Good. Grandpa Williams nodded his head lightly. Even though Kevin had angered the entire family, he was still his grandson after all, and he still wanted to see him before he died. I don't understand, Dad. Why did you call Kevin to come here? He's been banished from the family. Laura couldn't help wondering. Monty Aspinwall and Ethan Williams were standing by the window. They didn't understand why Grandpa had asked for Kevin to come to his bedside either. Was he going to make out a will? Let's change the subject, Laura. Dad wants to see his grandson one last time. Who are we to stop him? Thomas Williams frowned as he scolded his wife. As for Randall's poisoning, Thomas had a few suspicions, but since he still didn't have any evidence, he kept acting like he was clueless. As soon as Kevin entered the hospital, he attracted a lot of attention, but he wasn't in the mood to say hello to anyone. He stopped by the front desk to ask which room his grandfather was in, and then he walked up the stairs. Some of the people who were waiting in the lobby recognized him and started to whisper to each other. They believed all the lies that had been spread about what he'd done to the family and how he'd been ostracized. What's he doing here? They were all wondering. As soon as Kevin stepped out of the stairwell on the 4th floor, he was spotted by a lot of the senior members of the Williams family, who were standing around in the corridor. Kevin, you have a lot of nerve coming here, one of his relatives sneered. Get out of here right now, another one shouted. It certainly didn't look like a warm family reunion. They made a lot of noise insulting Kevin and telling him to get out. Hey, Uncle Thomas called and asked me to come. I'm here to see my grandfather, not you. Kevin wasn't afraid to tell them off. When he walked into Grandpa's room, everyone's eyes were riveted on him. His Aunt Lori even tried to block him from entering the room. You're not wanted here, l***er. Why don't you head back to your wife in Chicago? My mother's right. Get out of here right now, Kevin. My grandfather doesn't want to see you. Ethan snarled at him. Of course, Ethan didn't want Kevin to come into the room. Since Randall Williams didn't have a will, if Kevin came back, that meant dividing his estate up even more and less money for Ethan. What are you all shouting about? Get out of the way. I invited Kevin here myself. Thomas walked over to them with a scowl on his face. Are you kidding? Do you know how angry your father will get when he sees this? Laura was furious with her husband. How could he bring Kevin back just when they were about to inherit the family's wealth? This was a disaster. I'm not kidding at all. In spite of everything, Kevin is a member of the Williams family. It's only right for him to see his grandfather one last time. Thomas shut her down right away. Then he looked at his nephew and sighed heavily. Grandpa isn't awake right now. Have a seat at his bedside and wait for him to wake up again. Kevin nodded his head in agreement and walked over to the bed. Step outside with me. Thomas glared at Laura and the two of them left the room. Monty and Ethan clenched their fists as they stared at Kevin. But they both had different feelings towards him. Ethan's eyes were full of contempt while Monty's were full of resentment. Thomas and Laura walked all the way down the hall to the stairwell. What are you calling me out here for? Laura was in a very miserable mood. Thomas leaned in close to his wife and growled, Are you nuts? What do you mean? I think you're crazy for inviting Kevin here right now. Her eyes were burning with anger. You're the crazy one, Thomas shouted. Don't you realize Dad was poisoned? Laura was stunned when she heard this, and Thomas could see the panic in her eyes. What do you mean? How could he have been poisoned when he's been shut away in seclusion for so many years? Laura replied to him sternly. Maybe you haven't been in direct contact with Dad all these years, but you're the one who plans everything in the family. Thomas hesitated for a moment before he got to the point. I had my suspicions, but when Kevin showed up in the room, you gave away some clues. Laura didn't say anything to refute her husband's accusation. She just let Thomas keep talking. Tell me why you did it, Laura. Thomas gritted his teeth and asked her. The Williams family has treated you well all these years. How could you do such a heartless thing?
Ha! Laura suddenly laughed. How can you ask me something like that? Okay, I'll tell you the truth. Why should I hide it anymore? Thomas, don't you ever feel like you're not a real man? She paused for a moment to let that sink in. You're obviously senior to Kevin, but you couldn't hold a candle to him. If I didn't find a way to drive him out of the family, there's no way you'd be able to take over after your father died. If I hadn't arranged for Hannah to disappear, how else could I keep Kevin from returning to our family? Don't you realize that Randall loves his grandson too much to not welcome him back into the fold?
So it's true then.
Thomas looked deeply into Laura's eyes. He never thought that his wife could do so many things behind his back. You figured it out. I found someone to poison Randall. Hannah never went home, and I'm the one who made sure of that. Now Monty hates Kevin, and Kevin never embezzled the family's funds. I found someone to forge the evidence to make it look like he'd been funneling money from the family's accounts. Laura sneered and concluded, There you have it. It was me.
But why did you do all that? Kevin's your own nephew.
Thomas's hands were shaking. So what? I didn't have any choice. Ethan is a loser. All he knows is to sit around all day and waste his time. If I hadn't done this, Kevin would have ended up running the family's businesses, and we'd have lost everything. Laura didn't care about anything but her own future. Once Dad is out of the way, you can take over the whole Williams family. Everything really belongs to us anyway, and now nobody can take it away. Laura told her husband the rest of her plan. If you're worried that Kevin will be left penniless, you can just pay him off. I don't care how much, it'll be worth it. Every man has his price.
But you...
Thomas was so frustrated and disappointed in his wife that he didn't know what else to say. While this was happening, Kevin was sitting next to his grandfather's bed looking very sad. Even though the Williams family had kicked him out, how could he not be upset? He still loved his grandpa.
Hey, you bastard. Are you really going to wait around till Grandpa wakes up?
Ethan stood behind Kevin and looked down at him. He sneered.
I advise you to get out of here. If he wakes up and sees you, he'll only get angry.
Your father asked me to come here, and I'm staying. Don't tell me what to do, Kevin said brusquely.
He's very sick. I don't care if you are his grandson. I can't let you be the last thing he sees before he goes.
Ethan sneered menacingly.
So get out of here now.
Kevin ignored his cousin's order and continued to sit with Grandpa. Suddenly, his grandfather woke up. When he saw Kevin sitting there, his eyes lit up.
Grandpa, are you awake?
Ethan immediately asked him with a smile. Kevin sighed happily and called out, Grandpa.
Kevin, I am really glad you could come,
Randall said weakly. He'd been worried that Kevin wouldn't come back to see him. After all, he'd had his family do horrible things to Kevin's parents, Alan and Susan, and he'd even tortured Kevin's friend Mitchell. Just rest and get better, Grandpa. Kevin didn't know what else to say. A few minutes later, a nurse ran in and looked around the room. Are you all Mr. Williams' family members? Our team of specialists may have come up with a procedure to save him.
What would that be?
Thomas asked her urgently as he walked back into the room. Mr. Williams' blood is full of toxins. We can give him a transfusion to clear them out. Then the nurse added, but I want to emphasize that this procedure involves a lot of risk. If either Mr. Randall or the person who gives him the transfusion isn't in good enough health, they could die. The donor could even suffer health problems for the rest of their lives. All the family members in the room and out in the corridor heard this, and their faces turned grim. When they heard that the procedure could kill them or irreversibly weaken their health, they cringed. A lot of them were young and just starting to train their bodies with the help of the myriads. Grandpa Williams had already lived a long life. Why should they risk themselves just for him? They were all incredibly selfish. When Kevin saw everyone's reaction, he was disappointed in his relatives. How could they call themselves the protectors of the family? They owed everything to his grandfather's efforts over the years, and they'd be nothing without him. It looked like it would all be up to Kevin now.
Everyone in the Williams family was gathered in the hospital to be with Randall Williams, who had been poisoned. They all expected him to die, but a nurse came in and told them that he could be saved by a very dangerous type of blood transfusion. Seeing that everyone else was keeping silent, Kevin boldly asked, "How soon can you arrange for me to donate my blood?" "We have a couple of steps to go through first, sir. Before we do anything, we need to see if your blood types match," the nurse explained carefully. "If you'll all come with me, I can test everyone to see whose blood is compatible." As she finished speaking, most of the Williams family members were relieved to find out that they needed to match Randall's blood type. A couple of hours later, the family was even more excited. Grandpa Williams' blood type was AB negative, the rarest there is. "Out of 243 people, only 3 of you match Mr. Williams." The nurse was surprised when she looked at the results of everyone's testing. The hospital had hoped to have a larger pool of possible donors, but they were lucky to find even 3 people. One of the Williamses asked hesitantly, "Nurse, which 3 people matched?" "Kevin, Thomas, and Ethan Williams," she answered quietly. As soon as they heard who was eligible, many of the family members felt a lot less anxious, and Grandpa Williams, who had just woken up again, started to smile happily. Even though he had lived a long life, it was normal for him to want to live a little longer. "The next step is to discuss who will donate the blood. Then the hospital's specialists will begin the preparations for the procedure." The nurse turned and walked out of the room with the test results. Everyone turned and locked their eyes on Kevin, his uncle, and his cousin. Thomas sighed and patted Ethan on the shoulder. "Son, please donate your blood to your grandfather." Kevin was no longer considered a true member of the Williams family. Nobody expected him to come back and visit his grandfather in the hospital, let alone provide a blood transfusion. "Dad, what are you talking about?" Ethan looked at his father in shock. "I said you should give a blood transfusion to your grandfather," Thomas insisted as his heart sank. Just as Ethan was about to refuse, Grandpa Williams sat up a little in his bed and said, "No, I want Kevin to provide the transfusion for me." All of a sudden, everyone looked at the old man. Some of them had doubts in their eyes, while others immediately understood how he'd come to this decision. It was to help protect Thomas and Ethan. "Kevin, if anything happens to you, your wife will support you for the rest of your life. But your Uncle Thomas has just taken over as head of the family, and everyone is depending on him," Grandpa Williams explained. "As Thomas's only son, your cousin Ethan is next in line. The blood transfusion is not just dangerous, but could also affect his health. He's too young to take that kind of risk." Although Grandpa Williams was very weak, his mind was still strong. Nobody there could argue with his reasoning. Kevin was tempted to laugh. Ethan wasn't just a weak little boy. And so what if he was the only child in Thomas's family? If a blood transfusion like this was dangerous for Ethan, wouldn't it be just as risky for Kevin? Why was the Williams family ready to risk Kevin's life but not Ethan's? "Grandpa, do you really want to put them ahead of me?" Kevin was feeling a little resentment about his unreasonable suggestion. "Grandfather, you're right. I think I should be protected from harm, but Kevin is nothing to us. It doesn't matter what happens to him." Ethan was grateful that Kevin would take this enormous risk and not him. The other family members who were in the room echoed Ethan's opinion. One of them commented, "Yes, Kevin's blood would be better off in Grandpa's body. It would be payment for all the years the family supported him." Another one remarked, "I wish I could offer my blood to Grandpa, but unfortunately I don't have the right type." You could hear them all chattering up and down the hall. Kevin started to sneer as he looked around the room at all of his relatives, who were literally demanding his blood. "Kevin!" Of course, Thomas understood what his father was asking them to do. If you'd asked him the day before, he probably would have agreed. But now that he knew what Laura had done, he felt incredibly guilty and was concerned about his nephew. But he had to keep what his wife had done a secret from the rest of the family. There was no turning back now. "Kevin, did you hear that? The decision is unanimous, but don't worry.
After you donate your blood to your grandfather, we'll give you some money for your troubles. You get to do the right thing and also profit from it. Wouldn't that be a nice change?" Laura sneered as she spoke to Kevin. "Don't you think I can tell when I'm being manipulated?" Kevin grumbled. "I'll do the transfusion, but not because you're ordering me to. I've been cut off from the family for too long to care what you think. I'm doing this for my grandfather to repay his kindness to me over the years." The whole room suddenly quieted down, and no one said a word to refute what Kevin had said. "Thank you, Kevin. You don't know how happy this makes me. If the operation is successful and you and I are still alive, let's put the past behind us. You can even bring your parents back to the mansion," Grandpa Williams said excitedly. "Blood is thicker than water." Suddenly, Dalton Steele pushed his way through the crowd. The big burly man was seething in anger. "Dalton, what are you doing in New York?" Kevin asked in surprise. "Never mind that. Just come with me," Dalton snarled as he looked around at Kevin's relatives. None of the Williamses said a word. They avoided making any eye contact with Dalton. After all, they'd just seen how ferocious Dalton could be when he came to the family mansion. "Dalton, this is none of your business. What are you doing here?" Laura asked him angrily. She was afraid that if Kevin left, her son would have to offer to do the transfusion for Randall. She didn't care how dangerous Dalton was. She was trying to protect her son. "We haven't forgotten the trouble you caused for us, and we're not afraid of the Steele family." "Really? Not afraid of my family?" Dalton looked at Laura with disdain. "If you think you're strong enough, why don't you come to Chicago and see how that turns out for you?" "Calm down, Dalton." Kevin knew just how bad his friend's temper could be. "Are you nuts, Kevin? Have you already forgotten what they did to you?" Dalton roared loudly. "I know the Williams family can be vicious, but I can't forget their kindness to me when I was younger. They raised me until I was 20, Kevin explained to Dalton. But he also knew that nobody in the room was as good as his buddy. Then some of Kevin's relatives got over their fear and started to argue with Dalton. "You're screwing everything up. Kevin's willing to offer a blood transfusion to his grandfather. What gives you the right to stand in the way?" Another one yelled, "We just want him to donate some blood, not kill him." Then Ethan walked over to Dalton and sneered, "Just because you're important in Chicago, that doesn't mean anything here. Nobody wants your opinion. Besides, if Kevin helps Grandpa, what's it to you? Even if the procedure injures him, he's unimportant. I'm sorry, but he can just go back to living off his in-laws." "Who the hell are you? Nobody talks to me like that." Then Dalton grabbed Ethan by the neck and slapped him in the face. The whole room was silent, but nobody stepped forward to interfere. "How dare you hit me?" Ethan gnashed his teeth and glared at Dalton. He couldn't believe this was happening to him. He'd never been treated this way in his entire life. And now there were so many people watching. What would they think of him? "I'm gonna beat the crap out of you," Dalton said viciously. "Mr. Steele, aren't you going too far?" Thomas was on the verge of tears as he pleaded with Dalton. He felt helpless against this powerful man. "Are you Kevin's uncle? So you're the head of the Williams family now," Dalton shouted ferociously. "Listen to me carefully. As long as I'm alive, none of you will ever bully Kevin again. Don't forget that you're the ones who drove him out of your family, and now you're actually forcing him to give you his blood." "Hey, who put you in charge?" Laura snarled at him menacingly. "If you want Kevin, you'll have to get him over my dead body," Dalton retorted. "Come on, everyone," Laura roared loudly. "Let's show this guy what happens to someone who sticks his nose in our family's business." They all jumped up, ready to fight. Now that they'd been training with the myriads, a lot of them had gotten a lot stronger and more skilled. "We'll see about that." Dalton punched the wall. His fists were like hammers, and the entire room shook from the force of the blows. The Williamses all gasped in terror. They could clearly see 2 large dents in the masonry wall. No one doubted that if Dalton had punched harder, he would have broken through into the next room. "Who isn't afraid to die? Come and get me."
Dalton shouted so loudly that everyone near him took a step back, cowering in fear. I've never seen Dalton like this. Kevin was surprised at his friend's power. What he didn't know is that ever since Dalton took the power pill, his training had improved by leaps and bounds. He was already impressive before, and now his strength was absolutely overwhelming. None of Kevin's relatives was able to respond. They stood there with their mouths hanging open, unable to move. Don't be so arrogant, Dalton. Do you really think we're all that weak? Grandpa Williams sneered. Even though he was very weak from the poison, Grandpa Williams found the strength to challenge Dalton. Just because the Steele family has a huge influence in Chicago, don't think that you can come to New York and meddle in our family's affairs. If you mess with us, it'll end badly for you. From what I understand, the procedures could harm Thomas or Ethan. But did you give any thought to Kevin's feelings? Dalton sneered. Why don't you let your children and grandchildren learn how to lead by example? I can't believe you're making such a dumbass decision. If this is the best you can do, Kevin would be a lot better off without you. You! Grandpa Williams was so angry his body was shaking. Thomas quickly went to the bed and patted him on the shoulder to try and calm him down. Look what you've done now, Kevin. Did you bring your friend here just to upset your grandfather? Laura scolded him. Do you really want to make him angry? I think you should apologize to Grandpa right now. Why don't you apologize? Dalton shouted back. Suddenly they all heard someone burst into the room and shout, How dare you make trouble for the family again? Kevin was shocked to hear this, and he could feel the energy of the woman who was standing in the doorway. She stared expressionlessly at Kevin. It was Ariana Titus, the woman who had attacked Kevin at the Herbalist Society contest. She'd been busy teaching her students when she heard that Kevin had arrived in Grandpa Williams' room at the hospital. She rushed right over, expecting trouble. When Ariana saw how upset Grandpa Williams was, she scowled at Kevin. You scumbag! Have you come here to threaten your grandfather? Who is this woman? Dalton had no idea who she was, but he could feel that she was very different from ordinary people. Kevin's relatives were relieved to see Ariana arrive. They expected her to finish Kevin and Dalton off without a problem with all her fighting skills. Kevin's uncle and a few of his other family members stepped between Kevin and Grandpa Williams. Kevin frowned. He didn't understand why Ariana was still so angry with him. Dalton squinted at Kevin's relatives and then at Ariana. In spite of his progress, he wasn't really looking forward to fighting with her. Both sides stared at each other, wondering who would make the first move. The tension in the room was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Let's do it, Dalton! Kevin raced forward like a shot. Uncle Thomas did his best to stay between them and Grandpa Williams in a feeble attempt to shield him with his body. As the fight grew more intense, Laura laughed wildly. Even if Kevin wanted to run, he couldn't get away. She was sure that he'd end up defeated, and his blood would be able to help save Grandpa Williams. Are you okay, Kevin? Dalton ran over to him, obviously distressed. Never mind me. Kevin wiped the blood from his face and pulled his night dagger out of his jacket. You're a disgrace, Ariana shouted. But Kevin was more concerned with stopping her attack than exchanging insults. Just when Dalton was about to fight with the Williamses in Grandpa's hospital room, they were all interrupted by Ariana Titus. She burst into the room and confronted Kevin in a mad rage. Kevin was overwhelmed by her display of energy, and because she was much more skilled than he was. He was sure that he and Dalton couldn't beat her, even if they joined forces. She's pretty good, isn't she?
Dalton remarked casually to Kevin. Watch your tongue, Ariana sneered. She moved like lightning and struck Dalton's chest with her palm, right over his heart. It was the kind of punch that could give you a heart attack. Dalton staggered backward and struggled to catch his breath. Dalton! Kevin screamed in fright. In a rage, Kevin drew his night dagger and pounced on Ariana. He didn't care what happened to him. He moved so fast that you could hear the rush of air as he sprang toward her. But Ariana was a little quicker, and she deflected Kevin's strike. Kevin ignored her and turned away to check on Dalton. How are you, friend? Are you okay? Kevin asked in a panic.
You should get out of here, Kevin. I may never get to see Chicago again. Promise me you'll take care of Miranda for me."
"No, Dalton, you've got to hold on. I've got a way to save you. Before you save your friend, you should figure out how to save yourself." Ariana stabbed Kevin with her dagger. She was so close and so quick that he couldn't avoid it. The Williams family was certain that they were witnessing Kevin's death. They couldn't help getting excited. "What's going on?" Ariana looked at Kevin in disbelief. She knew that she hadn't missed him, but after piercing his shirt, the dagger couldn't go any further. Kevin looked down at his heart and saw that the blade had been unable to reach his skin. The Alliance leader's gift had saved his life. All of a sudden, Kevin exhaled deeply and took several steps back. Everyone was shocked at this turn of events. The blade that Ariana had just used was sharp enough to kill anyone, no matter how much they had been training and developing their body. But she had no idea that Kevin was wearing protective clothing. His ballistic shirt had not only absorbed all the energy, but reflected it back at her as she stabbed Kevin. She knew that Kevin couldn't stop a blade himself, but had to have something helping to protect him. "Let's go, Dalton." Kevin tried to rouse his friend so they could get away. "Where do you think you're going?" Because of her rage, Ariana wouldn't let them off so easily. How could she let Kevin take his friend and go? Not when she was so close to winning. But then someone else came into the room. Thomas and the others could feel his power, his dignified air.
"What are you doing, bullying these young men? Don't you have any integrity?"
The man's booming voice filled the room. Before anyone could react, the man moved gracefully to the middle of the room. He stood there calmly and faced Ariana and the others. "Who are you?" Ariana looked him up and down but wasn't sure what to make of him. She could tell that he was very advanced but knew nothing else about him. That meant she had to be extra careful, no matter how strong and skilled she was. "Sir, what are you doing here?" Kevin exclaimed excitedly. He was surprised to see the Night King. Kevin's relatives were shocked to see this. They didn't expect him to have such a powerful defender.
"Don't worry, Kevin. Your friend will be just fine."
The Night King walked over to Dalton and bent over him. "What arrogance! How dare you interfere?" Ariana moved toward the Night King to keep him from helping Dalton.
"And what ignorance!"
The Night King retorted as he made just a slight move and threw Ariana against the door. Ariana was frozen in shock. In all of her years of training, she'd never seen anyone like him.
"You mess with the bull, you get the horns,"
the Night King commented as he returned to checking on Dalton's injury. "Who are you?" She stared at the Night King, unsure what to do next.
"I'm Kevin's mentor. You don't deserve to know my name."
The Night King slowly turned around and looked at Ariana before he continued.
"Now tell me, can you protect these two men?"
Nobody was willing to risk his neck after seeing what the Night King had done to their champion Ariana. Then the Night King suddenly put his hand on Kevin's chest. He moved so quickly out of the room that he was just a blur. It was surreal because he wasn't running. He just slipped past all of them before anyone could react. And he took Kevin and Dalton with him. After he left, everyone started to snap out of it, and the feeling in the room was different, maybe a little lighter. But Ariana was deathly afraid of what she had just witnessed. This was on another level from anything she'd seen in all her years of training and improving her body with herbal meds. The Night King was like no other human she'd ever met. "I didn't expect Kevin to have someone so powerful training him," Ariana thought to herself. Then she quickly went over to the bed and spoke sincerely to Grandpa. "Mr. Williams, I'm sorry, but I may have to leave you and your family for a while. Please take care of my students." "Where are you going?" Laura immediately asked. She could see how powerful Kevin's mentor was, and she knew that Dalton was probably going to recover. If Kevin decided to take revenge, he'd have a powerful ally. But if he were still part of the Williams family, maybe that wouldn't happen. Ariana didn't consider the Night King to be an enemy, but if anything happened, she would have the support of her organization, the Union, and they would protect the Williams family. "I'm going to return to my people and report this to them," but she was only telling them half the story. What she didn't tell the Williams family was that she was starting to have some suspicions. Seeing someone that impressive in a public place like this could be a sign that there was something bigger going on, and she wanted to find out what it was. She walked out of the room without waiting for Randall to reply. A nurse who had heard all the commotion ran into the room. When she saw the mess in the hole in the wall, she was stunned. "What's going on here? Are you visitors or a demolition crew?" The nurse was very upset by their behavior. "I'm sorry, nurse. Our family will compensate you for any damages." Thomas took a deep breath and tried to calm himself. The nurse was more concerned about Grandpa Williams, though. Repairing the room wasn't in her job description. She looked Thomas in the eye and reminded him, "We need to know who's been chosen to provide the blood transfusion. Our specialists have informed me that it must be done no later than tomorrow." "You can rest assured that we've made our decision. Please, make the necessary arrangements for my father." Thomas sighed as he looked over at his father lying helplessly in the hospital bed. Laura tried to speak, but she just couldn't find the words. Now that Kevin had been taken away, Thomas and Ethan were the only ones left who could provide a transfusion for Grandpa Williams. But she didn't object because she was trying to keep a low profile. Ethan looked incredibly depressed. He knew that he couldn't run away from this, but he also wasn't sure if he would survive the procedure. This wasn't even a regular blood transfusion. From what the nurse had explained, it would be an incredible stress on his body, with possible long-term effects. As he lay there on the bed, Grandpa Williams was very conflicted. He knew that he should be furious at Dalton for his interference, but when he saw Kevin's mentor defeat Ariana so effortlessly, he regretted his behavior. "If I'd known that there was such a strong man behind Kevin, I'd have kept him in the Williams family, no matter what he did," Grandpa thought to himself. The Night King had such absolute strength that they couldn't resist him. Did the Williams family have any hope at all? Grandpa Williams was sure that the relationship between his family and Kevin was damaged beyond repair. No matter how much he regretted his behavior, he didn't see a way out. In Dalton's mansion, the Night King was bent over his patient. Kevin and the rest of the Steele family stood outside the door, unable to see exactly what the Night King was doing. Miranda's eyes were red and swollen from all of her crying. She'd been crying for nearly 3 hours, ever since Kevin had appeared in their home with his injured friend. But before they could find out just what had happened, they saw Dalton lying there, with his life hanging by a thread. Then the Night King asked for an empty room and took Dalton in for treatment. Kevin kept pacing the floor. He was anxious, but he knew that Dalton was better off there being treated by the Night King than at the hospital itself. He knew that Miranda and Dalton's grandfather Norman didn't blame him, but he still felt guilty about the whole situation. If it wasn't for him, Dalton wouldn't have had a quarrel with the Williams family at all, and he wouldn't be lying there fighting for his life. "Kevin, listen to me. If my cousin has any problems, we will never forgive you for it," Rain said to him coldly. "Yes, that's right. You're nothing but trouble. Dalton's had nothing but problems ever since he met you. I think you're a jinx," Blanca growled at Kevin. "Because of you, the Jones family's on the verge of bankruptcy. Your wife was seriously injured not long ago, and my cousin was almost permanently disabled thanks to you. And now he's half dead. If my cousin can't be saved, I'll make sure they bury you with him." Rain was seething with anger. Kevin leaned back against the wall, lowered his head, and said nothing. It was because of him that Dalton had been injured. No matter how harsh Rain and Blanca were being toward him, he didn't disagree and he let them keep venting their frustration. "That's enough, you two. Shut up." Norman Steele glared glumly at the two sisters. "Grandpa, why are you still protecting this?" Rain asked in surprise. "If it wasn't for the bad luck Kevin's brought us, my cousin wouldn't be like this. I have no idea how he can be saved," Blanca said as her voice got choked up. "Grandpa, why don't we just take him to the hospital? That man who's in the room with Dalton has already delayed getting medical treatment." "I told you both to shut up. Didn't you hear me?" Norman interrupted Blanca before she could finish her tirade. "What's the use of going to the hospital? Can any of those quacks be as skilled as the man who's working on Dalton right now?" Norman growled bitterly.
In his opinion, since Kevin had called the Night King, it was certain that he was no amateur and he would surely be able to save his grandson. Miranda stood silently at the door, looking absolutely despondent. Everyone could feel that she was on the verge of a collapse. Suddenly, the Night King opened the door and walked out. Several people hurriedly gathered around him to inquire about the situation. The blow was extremely powerful and very precise. It bruised Dalton's heart. If Kevin hadn't started to apply first aid at the risk of being attacked himself, the young man would have certainly died. The Night King could tell that the family was already exhausted, so he explained what he'd done so they could be reassured. I gave him some medication that will help his heart. He's already responding very well. Fortunately, he was in excellent shape to begin with, especially since he'd recently taken the restoration pill. His life is no longer in danger, but he needs one more thing if he's going to completely recover. What is it? I'll find it right away. Kevin immediately offered his help. The Night King's explanation had definitely given them hope and eased their anxiety. Miranda was finally breathing normally now. I like your positive attitude, but it's not going to be as easy as you think. The Night King looked Kevin in the eyes with a very solemn expression. Norman Steele was resolved to help his grandson. No matter how hard it is to find, even if it drives us to exhaustion, my family will find it and get it for you. I need a rare plant that has been infused with gold, the Night King announced to them. Great! Where in the world were they going to find that? The Night King had brought Dalton back from the brink of death, but he still required something to help him fully recover. The Steeles and Kevin promised to do everything in their power to find whatever the Night King needed. The legendary gemstone made by combining gold and water? Kevin asked in shock. Not bad. I see you found some time to study. The Night King nodded his head a few times and then continued his explanation. Normally, gold and water can't mix, but a process was discovered to create a gemstone that contains gold that's been blended with water. The result is similar to aqua aura, but far more rare and valuable, and we have ways to use it for healing. Kevin had been hopeful for Dalton's full recovery until he heard the last part. The gold and water gemstone is the rarest of the rare, and you could never expect to see a sample in your entire lifetime. How on earth was Kevin going to find any so he could help his friend? I seem to remember seeing some, Norman Steele suddenly exclaimed. About 15 years ago, there was a small piece of it at the Pearl family's auction house. As I recall, it was sold to the Sutherland family for close to $600 million. Are you sure that the Sutherlands bought it? Kevin's eyes lit up as he felt a glimmer of hope. No matter how much it might cost, at least they now had a lead to follow. This would no longer be like looking for a needle in a haystack. The bidding was fierce because several uber-rich families wanted to get their hands on it. Norman seemed lost in thought as he tried to remember the details. Then he added anxiously, But the Sutherlands don't socialize with families like ours. We're not aristocratic enough for them. If I went to their mansion, they probably wouldn't even let me get past the front gate, let alone give us the gold water gem. I'll go there. I know Penny. She's the oldest daughter in the family. Kevin said confidently. Don't worry, Mr. Steele. I'll bring it back here. How can a loser like you know someone like Penny Sutherland? Rain said in disbelief. Well, I think he's just trying to find a way to slip out of here. Blanca looked at Kevin with disdain. Penny's completely out of your league. Why would she waste her time being friends with a scumbag like you? Rain, Blanca, you two should really talk less, Norman said angrily. In fact, Mr. Steele didn't blame Kevin at all for what had happened to Dalton. He knew that his grandson had chosen to risk his life for Kevin and that sometimes things don't go your way in life. And that's exactly the kind of man he'd raised his grandson to be. Kevin ignored Dalton's cousins.
If anyone in the Sutherland family gives you any trouble at all, just show them this infinity pendant, and all your problems will be solved." The Night King spoke very seriously as he put the jewelry into Kevin's hand. "Thank you, sir." Kevin didn't ask any more questions. He knew that the Night King had a lot of secrets, but he wasn't ready to talk about them yet. As soon as Kevin stepped outside, he called Penny's number. But she didn't answer, and Kevin got more and more frustrated as he tried over and over to connect with her. Finally, on the 6th try, he was connected. Penny didn't even wait for Kevin to speak, and she snapped at him impatiently. "Kevin, are you sick or something? Why are you calling me?" He understood right away that Penny was angry about the medication he was supposed to make for Mackenzie. "I'm sorry, Penny, but I have to ask you for help with something. Where are you right now?" "Why should I tell you?" Penny replied coldly. "Please, do me this one favor. And I do have the repair pill for your friend," Kevin said anxiously. "Just tell me where you are and I'll get it to you now." "I'm at Brenda's beauty salon," Penny said tersely, and then she abruptly hung up. Suddenly, Mackenzie Knott reached out and put her arm around Penny's waist. "And who were you talking to?" "I think Penny has a little secret. Could it have been her future husband?" Brenda stared at her friend with a mischievous look in her eyes. "Wow, Penny, since when do you have a boyfriend? Why haven't I heard about him before?" one of the other women asked her. "Tell us everything about him. Don't hide anything from us. We promised to be nice to him." One of her other friends was begging her to give them some details. The women were all sitting around on the plush sofas, smiling as they teased their friend. It was quite a scene. They were sitting in a luxurious beauty salon that Brenda had recently bought. It looked like a legitimate business, but it was just a place for the friends to hang out, and it was never open to the general public. "There isn't much to say. It was just Kevin calling." Penny didn't sound very angry, but when she saw her friend's expressions change, she couldn't help thinking about the handsome, naive-looking guy who had her so mixed up. "What? Penny, why did you even answer the phone of that liar? What the heck did he want?" You could see the anger in Mackenzie's eyes. It was bad enough that Kevin had seen Mackenzie undressing on Penny's video call, but then he went on to cheat her instead of making the herbal meds he'd promised. After Kevin had disappeared from Penny's basement, she discovered that most of the precious medicinal ingredients in the lab were missing. Luckily, she'd taken a look around when the construction workers were repairing the hole in her basement wall. Because of that, everyone believed that Kevin had only claimed to be an herbalist so that he could get access to her basement and steal the materials. They figured he made the hole in the wall so he could sneak out before being exposed as a fraud. "Mackenzie, I really don't think we should call him a liar. As a matter of fact, Kevin just told me that he's made the repair pill he promised, and he's bringing it over right now." Although Penny's tone was very matter-of-fact, her expression showed that she still had some doubts. "What?" Her friends all replied in unison. They couldn't believe it was true. "Don't believe a word that liar says, Penny. I think he just told you so that he could get near you and pull some other crap on you," Mackenzie advised her stubbornly. "From everything I've read, the repair pill is one of the lost prescriptions that had disappeared along with most of the apothecaries. Even if someone got a hold of the recipe, it would take a skilled herbalist to make one." Mackenzie tried to remain calm, but she didn't want Penny to be tricked by Kevin again. But just in case Kevin really was a master at herbalism, they had to be careful not to be rude to him. In fact, they still didn't know exactly why he disappeared that night. Was he really worth the loss of so many valuable medicinal ingredients? But if he turned out to be a master herbalist, he was worth any price he asked. When Brenda thought about it, she suddenly got very serious. "Penny, do you know how long it'll take Kevin to get here?" "I'm not sure, but I don't think it'll take him too long." Penny wasn't in the mood to argue with her friends. As far as Penny was concerned, Kevin just couldn't be trusted. First, he broke his dinner date with her. Then he destroyed her basement and snuck off with some pretty pricey herbal ingredients. On the other hand, it was really hard to find a good herbalist, let alone a great one. Penny tried to imagine what it would be like to have an herbalist in her family. If only we could get Kevin into the family. Penny thought to herself. I don't ever want to see that loser again. If he dares to come here, I'll take care of him. Mackenzie clenched her fists tightly. Geez, Mackenzie, do you have something against Kevin? One of the other women burst out laughing at her friend's reaction to him. I've got good reason to be pissed at him. When Mackenzie said this, she was thinking about how Kevin had seen her in her underwear on Penny's phone. While they were all arguing about Kevin, the door opened and he rushed in. He was stunned by the sight of a dozen beautiful women lounging around. He'd expected to walk into a real beauty salon, but this looked more like a nightclub. He felt a little outnumbered and stood there awkwardly. Oh, hi, handsome. Back so soon? Did you miss your sweetie? Brenda walked toward Kevin seductively, getting a kick out of making him feel a little uncomfortable. I just couldn't stay away. How are you doing, beautiful? Kevin did his best to be playful too, even though he had more important things on his mind. Oh, you don't seem so shy this time. Brenda leaned in and blew in Kevin's ear. Listen, Angel, I really need to talk with Penny. Kevin gently stepped away and started to walk toward Penny. A second later, a glass of white wine was thrown in Kevin's face. Everyone turned and stared at Mackenzie. You have some nerve coming here, you liar! Mackenzie smashed her glass on the floor. What are you doing, Mackenzie? Kevin was taken by surprise. What are you talking about? I can pour a glass of wine, can't I? She sneered. You know, yesterday I sent someone to check into your background. That's how I found out you were tossed out of your own family, and ever since you've been mooching off the Jones family. You're the biggest loser in Chicago. When the other woman in the salon heard what Mackenzie had found out, they burst into laughter. Well, most of the women who were sitting on the sofas were amused, but a couple of them weren't laughing at all. Doesn't that bother you, Penny? One of the women asked her. They started to mock Kevin and ask him why he was so interested in Penny. By now, none of them believed that Kevin was really an herbalist. They figured he'd be lucky to train his body a little, let alone have such a specialized skill. After all, whoever heard of an herbalist who was short on cash? They're usually so rich they toss money around like it's confetti. Kevin frowned, but he didn't say anything more. He was there to ask for help. He would just have to put up with their humiliation if he wanted to help Dalton to recover. What am I? Mackenzie put her hands on her hips and glared at Kevin. I don't have the time for this. Kevin wiped the wine off his face and walked over to Penny. Can I talk with you about something? Oh, were you talking to me? Penny interrupted Kevin as she casually sipped her sparkling wine. Didn't you claim that you can refine all kinds of herbal meds? All I've seen is a giant hole in my wall. Let me explain that, Penny. Kevin didn't know what to say for a moment. That night, he'd been knocked unconscious by the person who'd been sent by Selena, the Alliance director. When he woke up again, he was at the Alliance's headquarters. He had no idea what happened during that time. There's nothing to explain. Just get lost. Penny gestured impatiently for him to go away. Did you hear what Penny said? Just get out of here or you're dead meat. Mackenzie was so angry she could barely catch her breath. Please, listen to me, Penny. My friend is dying. He urgently needs a gold and water gemstone to save his life. I don't care how much money you want for it, Kevin pleaded with her. Every minute that he delayed, Dalton was in more danger. Suddenly, all the women looked over at Penny. They knew that the Sutherlands had taken the raw material and hired a craftsman to create a bracelet for Penny. Do you know what you're talking about? That's an extremely rare treasure. Mackenzie scolded Kevin. Mackenzie's right. I think you should give up on the idea. It's Penny's favorite piece of jewelry and she hasn't taken it off in years. Brenda put one hand on Kevin's shoulder and patted his cheek with the other. Let's get serious. Penny knitted her brow as she thought about Kevin's request. Then she looked at him again. Do you know how much my family paid for it? I know it cost $600 million. I'll go to the bank to transfer the money to you right away, Kevin answered quickly. Things were going really well at Williams Media. Plus, the new hotel was doing great, and on top of that, Cook and Tyler would certainly back him. $600 million was just a drop in the bucket. Penny's friend stopped laughing. Do you have any idea how much $600 million is? Brenda asked. I know you're upset with me, but I really had an emergency that night. Look, I have the repair pill right here. Kevin held out his hand and showed it to her. They all stared in disbelief. Penny gazed at the repair pill and then looked at Kevin, then back at the medicine. She was sure it was the real thing, but her friends thought it was just a trick. How could Kevin prove that it was genuine? Penny's friends wanted Kevin to leave, especially Mackenzie. In order to show how sincere he was, Kevin showed them the repair pill that he'd made for Mackenzie. You've got to listen to us. Penny, don't let this trash cheat you again. Nobody actually knows what the repair pill looks like. This could just be a freaking piece of candy. She didn't trust Kevin at all. As he was listening to everyone badmouth him, he started to hyperventilate. How could they be so foolish when they had no idea what they were talking about? Let's listen to what he has to say. Penny looked Kevin directly in the eye and asked him, Is it true that your friend's life is on the line? Yes, it's true. Dalton was injured by an expert from the union. He's lying at home right now. If you don't believe me, I can take you over to the Steele family's mansion. Kevin anxiously shuffled his feet. Not right now. I ended up having the day off from school and I want to hang around a little more with my sisters. I believe you, and I'll let you have the golden water gem, but you have to remember one thing. You owe me a favor now. A huge favor. Penny slowly took off her bracelet. She understood how Kevin felt about Dalton, and she would never joke around about something as serious as this. This bracelet contains the gold water stone? Kevin asked in surprise. Yes, but I want to remind you that although this is rare and valuable, it's extraordinarily durable. If my family hadn't known what to do with it, I'm afraid it wouldn't be here today, Penny remarked as she held it out for Kevin. But before Kevin could take it from her hand, Mackenzie reached out and snatched it away. Mackenzie, what are you doing? Penny was surprised at her friend. Penny, don't worry about it. I want to teach Kevin a lesson. Mackenzie held the bracelet out of Kevin's reach and said, Give me the pill first. Don't you believe this is a real repair pill? The frustration was showing on Kevin's face. He wanted to deck Mackenzie, but that wouldn't be right either. I just don't believe you. What's the matter with that? Mackenzie replied coldly. Give me the repair pill and I'll send someone to see whether this is a genuine med before I give you the bracelet. No way. As far as Kevin was concerned, this wasn't even an option, so he refused and pulled back his hand. Dalton was still unconscious. Was there enough time for Mackenzie to have the pill verified? What if she left and didn't come back? Kevin, you know that Penny can be a little gullible. Believe it or not, I'm ready to destroy the bracelet right now. Mackenzie's eyes were burning with anger. Don't be impulsive, Mackenzie. Penny tried to calm her friend down. Penny knew how bad her temper could be, and she was used to having to calm her down. Mackenzie, you may not realize it, but the bracelet's material is virtually indestructible. There's no way you could destroy it. Kevin hated to be threatened, and he did his best to control his tone of voice.
Please subscribe to the Pocket FM YouTube channel and press the bell icon for instant notification. Check out our channel for more such exciting shows.